Good morning, everyone. This is my music exhibition. I decided to choose different composers from 5 of the 7 different continents, from Europe, Asia, North America, South America, and Africa. First, in Europe, I decided to choose Hector Berlioz and one of his compositions, the Symphonie Fantastique. Let's listen. Hector was born December 11, 1803, in Le Comte Saint-Andrew, France, and died March 8, 1969. He was a French composer, critic, and conductor of the Romantic period. He was an elder son of a provincial doctor, so he was expected to follow his father into medicine. And he attended a medical college until he defied his family and decided to pursue music instead. His movement and style is the Romanticism from the 18th to 19th century of the Romantic period. One of his pieces, the Symphonie Fantastique, which we just listened to, embodied what he loved to do with music, which is to combine music and literature together. In doing this, he invented a new genre called program symphony, a symphony that can tell a story. Berlioz's compositional techniques have been strongly criticized and equally defended. His approach to harmony and musical structure conforms to establish no rules. His approach to rhythm caused perplexity to contemporaries, and he introduced new varieties of rhythm into his music because he hated other phrases that had been used and invented. His melodies have clear tonal and harmonic implications, and sometimes his symphonies included pictorial touches. He is still seen as a very controversial composer. Many people love his music and many people don't like his music. But either way, his new inventions in music help shape the way we view music and art and to broaden musical expression today. For second continent, I chose Asia. Chose Shen Yi and one of her compositions called the Percussion Concerto, which we will listen to now. Shen was born April 4th, 1953, into a talented family of musicians and doctors. Her mother played the piano and her father was a violinist. Her older sister was a prodigy, and she and her brother worked as professional musicians in China. Shen began studying piano at the age of 3 and was heavily influenced by Bach and Mozart. After different difficulties and obstacles in her life, Shen began working as a concertmaster. She is known as a prolific composer who blends Chinese and Western traditions in her style of music. Her techniques are influenced by traditional Western classical pieces, which are post-tonal. They feature Chinese folk elements and are built around a tonal center. Some of her works begin with melodic ideas containing the primary components of the thematic language. Other works she has done, such as Eleanor's Gift, are defined more abstractly by its rhythm, melodic contour, and varied repetitions. She is an influence to musicians in the way her music is structured and an inspiration to Chinese women, especially in the music industry. In North America, I chose Charles Ives, and one of his compositions is called The Unanswered Questions, which we will also listen to now. Charles Ives was born October 20th, 1874 in Danbury, Connecticut, and died May 19, 1954 in New York. Ives received his earliest musical instruction from his father, who was a bandleader, music teacher, and an acoustician who experimented with the sound of quarter tones. When he was 12, Charles played organ in a local church, and 2 years later, his first composition was played by the town band. After graduating college, he became an insurance clerk and part-time organist in New York. His music became wildly known only in the last 2 years of his life. Ives' music is intimately related to American culture and experience. His compositions with integrated quotes from popular tunes, revival hymns, barn dances, and classical European music are frequently works of enormous complexity that freely employ sharp dissonance, polytonal harmonies, and polymetric constructions. He took from European music what techniques he wished while experimenting with tonal clusters, microtonal intervals, and elements of chants in music. He has about 51 compositions. Some of his pieces are The Unanswered Question, which we just listened to, the Piano Sonata No. 2, Three Places in England, Psalm 150, and In Autumn. For my fourth continent, I chose South America, and from there I chose Cecilia Borges Barbosa, and one of her compositions is Estudo Brasileiro No. 2, which we'll listen to now. Barbosa was born May 18, 1914, and died August 6, 2010. She was a Brazilian pianist, conductor, and composer. She was one of the pioneers of electronic music in Brazil. She was born in Rio de Janeiro, Brazil. Barbosa worked with Heitor Lobos and served as a director of a villa. She became a professor for the chamber ensemble of the National School of Music in Brazil. She also directed a number of orchestras and choir ensembles. She had works in literature with 50 studies for piano based on Brazilian rhythms. Cecilia left an extensive work of important musical and pedagogical value. With edited and handwritten works, the collection still offers much to be discovered. For my fifth and final continent, I chose Africa, and from there I chose Samuel Ekpe Akbot and one of his compositions called The Three Nigerian Dancers, number 1, we will listen to now. Samuel Ekpe Akbot was born October 3, 1932, and died August 7, 2000. He was a Nigerian music composer, ethnomusicologist, and author, and was born into the Ibibio heritage. During college, he worked as a sports journalist with the Daily Times. In Lagos, he was a chorister and then went to study music in London. His first major composition was Scenes from Nigeria, a 12-minute orchestral piece with African flavor created to celebrate Nigerians' independence. Many of his compositions portray African and European instruments. Others use Western instruments such as strings and timpani. With the use of the call and response patterns and idiomatic rhythmic motives, which is something that we saw in the composition that we just listened to, The Three Nigerian Dances, where the different instruments they would call in response. One instrument would play and another instrument would respond in those same rhythmic patterns. Many of his compositions have a greater emphasis not only on African elements, but in the use of melodic and formal procedures. His choice of instrumentation is also conditioned by the need to project the features of traditional African instruments, as exemplified in Nigeria in conflict consisting of those which are typical of Ibibio music. They are the gong, the woodblock, rattle, wooden drum, and xylophone. Virtually all his works are typified by a recurring approach in which elements of high life music combined with those of traditional culture, Ibibio, are fused with features of European tradition.